Oh, hello.
Good day. I'm Sami Parvez and welcome to the Sami Parvez show. I'm joined by Donwan Ekstrom, my buddy from beautiful Grand Prairie. How are you doing, Donwan?
Sammy, it's always a pleasure to get on the Sammy Parvez show. I'm doing well. I'm still got this cold, which makes me sound. I've had some students suggest I sound like James Earl Jones, which is quite a compliment. No, it's good. The weather's a little wacky up here. We've gotten a lot of rain, so we
Mm-hmm.
went from -25 to +5
Mm-hmm.
and lots of weird moisture, so freezing rain and whatnot. But it's good, Sammy. Things are good. I just finished my jazz concert yesterday, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we did our last night. I did my jazz concert, which I think went well, and now I start doing rehearsals for Greece because I'm playing music in another thing. So it just doesn't stop, Sammy. Right after this show, I'm playing at Evergreen Park. So if you're in the Grand Prairie area and want to say hello,
Mm-hmm.
stop on by. I'll be there from 1:30 till like 4. So, but yeah, no, it's good, Sammy. How are you doing in beautiful Kitchener Waterloo area?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Like it seems like last time we spoke like couple of weeks ago, as you predicted, there will be more snow toward Ontario. So we received a big blow of snow. Like we are just keep receiving more and more. Oh, it seems like right now it's sunny down there, but yeah, it means we have lots of snow and I'm doing perfectly fine, just having fun with this crazy weather, what it feels like living in Saskatchewan.
Well, that's they call that the Alberta Clipper, the weather
Wow.
that you're having, because that's because of that big Pacific front that
Mm-hmm.
pushes all of the cold Alberta weather, and
Mm-hmm.
then it just pushes it towards sort of the more moist weather, and it happens in like Kentucky. So it's like whenever there's snowstorms in the States, it's
Yeah.
typically because of the Alberta Clipper. So that's
Mhm.
kind of a nice little thing that Alberta gifts everybody, the gift of a white Christmas. So some people might not like that, but that's what it's all about there, Sammy. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So thank you, Alberta, for giving this snow to the Ontarians, but I don't need it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about politics. So it seems like Trudeau secretly visited to the United States, meeting with Donald Trump, who he was uh, anti of Trump at the last few years. Like keep calling Pierre Poulier or comparing him with Trump, but suddenly you took a secret visit to Mar-a-Lago Trump residence and meet him. Like I think the meeting went over 3 hours and it was completely secret. As we talked like last our weekly live show, but there is new uh, n- there is n- some new in- information were revealed from that meeting that Trump suggested that Canada should become 50% states of the United States, but it is being said he joked. But why the hell he would joke about this one and told Trudeau to you could be the governor of that state. Like I don't think any presidents in the past would it, it suggested this nonsense. It seems like Trump knows that we have a weak leader who cannot do, like we don't have uh, our own defense system. Yes, we do our own defense, but we are not capable of defending ourselves because we don't have. You remember back couple of years ago when a object was flying over, I think, York. Uh, a territory. So it was shot down by US, not Canada. Then Trudeau say he ordered. No, you did not order. It was ordered by President Biden. So what the hell is happening? Like you are keep showing that we are weak, despite Trump. Even though I told, like you remember back in 2019 after Trump called Trudeau toothpaste. He said Canada is lots of resources. Like Canada is full of resources, as being the uh, second largest country by area in the world, following Russia. So like it means we have everything, but we don't have capable leaders, and we are just not using our resources for ourselves, unlike any other western world. Even though China or India, if you take them, or even Iran. What is Iran? It is nothing, like despite having many sanctions, but people are living a good lifestyle, even though providing them lots of free things, like their grocery, and there are some even though oil, like they will get a similar ratio for cheap, or lower prices. Those are Iranian citizens who were born there. So they have all those things, but here in Canada, we also have the lots of resources, and also great share of oil, but we are paying too much. So yeah, we need to be mocked by Trump. Then we also have the crisis of immigration in Canada. People are just flooding, like just we opened the border. It seems like everyone is just getting in, and it seems like it is just a show is going on, like whenever there would be a concert or a game, whenever you want to just get in the stadium. So it seems like it's happening like that, and we are also like sending terrorists to the United States, or criminal, and many people got caught, like recently one man, a Pakistani student. It was just a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, who wanted to kill Jews in the United States. He was caught in near US Canada border in Quebec, and it means he got entered. It was his mission. Maybe he was sent for this thing to Canada. Like you can get easily a visa, and can get uh, a student visa easily for Canada, then get in, and you can easily travel to the United States. And many people were caught like that. But what Trudeau is doing, diversity is the source of strength. This is nonsense. What's your reaction after hearing what Trump said?
Well, there's a couple of things. So yeah, there's an interesting debate moment that happened back in 1988 between John Turner and Brian Mulroney,
Mm-hmm.
when they signed the first U.S. Canada free trade agreement
Yes.
before Mexico was a part of it. And
Mm-hmm.
John Turner gave a very impassioned speech saying, "You are going to kill Canadian industry. You're going to kill Canadian independence. We're going to be nothing more than a vassal of the United States through this
Mm-hmm.
free trade agreement because they have the resources, they have the infrastructure, and that they will just suck us dry."
Yep.
And that for 100 years, Canada was able to stand on its own. We had industry, we had our own little thing that was able, quite capable, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the free trade agreement happens. And Brian Mulroney, of course, said, no, that's not going to happen. But now, as it's kind of interesting hindsight, being 2020, we see that John Turner was very much correct. Like I have a couple of I have clothing that was made in Canada that
Mm-hmm.
is no longer made in Canada. This free trade agreement kind of knocked us out of it, and
Yep.
where do the jobs go? Yeah, it's of course there's benefits, right? Like initial benefits, but I think in particular Trump, and I think this is also like a Trump thing. From
Yep.
what I was reading about it, he said it as a joke, and
Yes.
then everybody laughed nervously, like the Canadians laughed nervously, but all the American people were laughing really loud. So then he said it like a couple more times, to which, and I think he just loves seeing that little twinge. And you're right. Like in 2019, he said, Canada's got all the resources. They've just so many lakes. It's so good to solve
Mm-hmm.
all of their problems. Um, and he's right. Like it's one of those things. But yeah, like over the last 40 years, Canada's been slowly but surely losing its industry.
Yes.
And we sort of rely on the United States very much as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily Trudeau's not
Part.
the fault. It's the fault of, like, really, every prime minister that we've had, that includes Harper, that includes Mulrooney, that includes Chrétien, that includes all these folks that,
Yep.
instead of defending Canadian industry,
Yep.
uh, decided to go, well, this is just easier. And now all of the chickens have come to roost.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're kind of stuck in this weird little limbo where, yeah, and he's 100% right. Like honestly, Canada is not going to do anything if the United States decides to annex Canada. Like
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Like the only thing is that the international community would get upset, and then there might be a cause of there might be sort of a bit of a turmoil from that. That's the only reason. And like I understand, I hear that a lot from people being like, well, why doesn't Canada just join? And I think that what we have actually set up in North America is pretty good, having three distinct countries and three distinct economies. I actually think that that allows trade, that allows bargaining, and that allows actually a greater thing. If Canada, the United States, and Mexico were one country, resources wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, we'd start to see it going towards more of the big cities, and we'd lose a lot of that. I actually think having three distinct countries is quite helpful. And I also think too, if Canada was to join the United States is already, people are screaming about civil war starting. I think that the bigger your country gets, it doesn't, history repeats itself quite a bit. Rome, uh, when your empire gets too big, everything will fall apart. And that's kind of the way that that's going to go. Now, when it comes to sort of, yeah, Trudeau, it's easy to dunk on him. It's easy. It's always easy to dunk on Justin Trudeau. It brings me a lot of joy to do that. But like the immigration thing has been a long time coming. That's been a big issue. Um, and he's apologized. He said they know we got it wrong and we're gonna fix it. How quick that's gonna come around remains to be seen. Um, but yeah, we're kind of in this weird zone, Sammy, where Trump is 100% correct that yes, he could annex Canada, and there's literally nothing we could do. And a lot of that is stems from that free trade agreement from '88 with Reagan and Mulrooney. Um, and so yeah, we're kind of at the whims right now, and it's unfortunate, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the way it goes when you shift your entire economy towards maintaining United States. And also that's what happens with free trade. And I've been actually quite shocked at the turn a lot of conservatives have had towards free trade. Because it was for a long time very much liberal, or conservatives were very much proponents of the free trade. Like this is really good. And now they've shifted, a lot of them have, towards like, hey, we need to buy Canadian, we need to support Canadian. And I think, yeah, is it too little too late? I often wonder if there's a way that Canada could start to make its own manufacturing, but I'm not 100%. Like I don't, it's tough. Like it's too, I think the pain would be really bad. And I think people don't want to experience that. People don't want to experience uncomfortableness. And it's like, oh, things might get a little bit more expensive. But it's all for the benefit, Sammy. And I think that hopefully one day we start, getting back that textile manufacturing in Quebec, get some textile manufacturing in like Alberta, and then we start making our own stuff. Because yeah, Canada has all the primary resources, second biggest country, but we do need that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
go ahead.
yeah, you sorry. Like good we are joined by Adam Smith on the chat. He said good morning,
Oh,
gents, and
good
a
morning.
Saturday Sami surprise. And why doesn't Canada annex Alaska? Oh, we need to invade US now.
We should try it. I think that would be all right. If we just, I think that was a Rhino Party promise that we would annex Alaska inch by inch because nobody really pays attention up there,
Mhm.
and that by the time they realize what's happening, we'd have like half of it. Um, so like in a few hundred years, 200 inches, like it's not bad. But yes, and then yes, it looks like the race for Turks and Caicos. I can't wait. Yeah, get that as our next province, and then we can enjoy the beautiful weather down there.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Like Adam, we miss you. Like we always talk about you before beginning our show, ending our show, but it seems like you are busy.
He's busy, but that's okay. He's our special little guest. Once he
Yeah.
comes in, it's always a blessing. So it is a blessing when we get our boy, good boy Adam. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's this whole Trump thing. He can say it, and it said he's a troll, and I think he got a reaction, and he got an uncomfortable reaction from Canadians that were there, which I think makes it fun for him. Like
Mhm.
he relishes in people being like uncomfortable because he knows that he has a powerful position on top of that. So like, of course, he's gonna keep saying it, and he gets a reaction too. He's getting reactions out of Canadians, and people are sort of coming up and being like, "Well, no, we don't want that," and then he's posts a picture. Like obviously, I said I'm not getting into my war bunker and practicing my shooting for the Americans invading, but you know, it's not I don't it's just trolling. But he's not wrong. I think it has led to an important conversation about has free trade been actually a benefit for Canada? I mean, it has been for a while, but now we're starting to see the cracks form. And that, yeah, Canada doesn't have an industry anymore. We don't have like anything. We're barely able to do our own stuff. We have a good primary industry. We're good at logging. We're good at, we're good at fishing. We're good at, but like everything else, it just drops off.
Yeah, we need to be more independent, as you said. Like we need more industries. Like in Quebec. So it means we have the resources. Why just we don't utilize them and get it done? And we need to think. Like it's time. It's enough. It is enough. Like being independent on a country like United States. You cannot trust always your friend. Like they can turn their back at any time as just Trump did. Like he just threatened to put a 25% tariff on Canadian products.
But
So
like,
this
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I said this is surprising. Like Canada and United States are the closest ally, and also biggest trading partner, and they relied on each other. But despite that, if you are pushing like that, it seems like you are turning your back on your best friend, like Canada.
Well, but the problem too with being independent is that it's cheaper to get things through trade. Like I remember getting like a can or like one of those not a can but like a container of peaches,
Continue, yeah.
and on it it said, peaches from Georgia, packaged in Brazil and shipped to, and I was like, wouldn't it just be cheaper? But then I read into it, and it's because of these trade agreements, it's actually cheaper to ship things around the world than it is to do it on your own. And
Mhm.
that becomes, and that's what I'm saying is that like if Canada is going to become an independent like on its own, it's going to hurt for a while. Like
Yeah.
it's going to not be easy. And how many people want to go through that little turmoil to have what is going to ultimately be better in the long run for Canadian sort of independence and being able to stand on its own. Hey, if the economy tanks in the U.S., well, that's what happened in 2008. We kind of stood up quite well during the housing crisis. But we're so we still felt it, like we still feel everything because we're so intertwined with the states, and I think that yes, it's going to take some pain to get better, and I don't know if people are willing to do that. I think a lot of people aren't willing to suffer a little bit for what could be better, and it might not be better too, right? Like it's a risk, it's a gamble. It's sort of like when I striking, or when like a union decides we're going to stop working. It's like you're gambling. Could it be better? It might not be, and it's going to suck in the interim, but you hope for something better in the long run. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Pierre Polyev is gonna make his promise of not talking to lobbyists, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
advocate for Canadians. And you're like, well, okay, we'll see about that. But I'm not very optimistic, Sammy.
I was going to ask you, like, are you optimistic about this? What Pierre Polier is suggesting about this? No, no, like he's not going to work on this. Yeah, and yes, if we don't do trading, like the product will be uh higher. Like the price will be higher than cheaper. It will be very expensive as compared to whatever you uh purchase from China as compared to if you purchase something in Canada. So there could be a huge difference. Like the labor is cheaper down there, but here you need to pay 16, 17 bucks per hour to a worker. Maybe there you need to pay $1 per hour. So this makes a big difference.
Yes, it's the unfortunate reality, Sammy. The
Mhm,
ideas of independence. And that's what happens, you know? It's just, we're all locked in. 40 years of free trade, it's hard to break out of it. And it's not
mhm,
even necessarily just doing it fully independent. It's more of like just establishing it. And this is when we start looking at the ideas of perhaps crown corporations coming back a little bit more of like we're going to make a textile thing and
mhm,
support some of these industries. But then we have to look at the ineptness of our federal government and how well that would go, which I think would not go particularly well. So
mhm,
yeah, it's not good. Trump can make the joke, and it's not really much of a joke because it's quite real. That Canada would, yeah, he could just annex Canada and we would just smile and take it and hope
mhm,
the international community prevents it. But yeah.
mhm. Yeah, and I also saw a report today, like French President Emmanuel Macron also visited Trump. To, he was meeting with Trump, but I don't think that was a secret meeting. Unlike US, I don't know, like why Trudeau took that step just to visit there secretly. But I don't know, like we are. I will join in shortly. Just need to finish a couple little tasks. Maybe Canada will become the United States by via Canada Post. And we have a long Canada Post strike. I think it now entered fourth week, but still they did not come to a conclusion. Adam will join us shortly.
Well, that's lovely. Good. Oh, Adam.
Mhm.
Adam. Lovely. Lovely.
And then we have Crown Corporation like Canada Post, which is not running very well. Like many businesses are affected from this strike, and it has been happening. Like I think now it has been fourth week. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it started back in November 16th or 15th.
so three or four, we're hitting the fourth week. Yeah, well, that's also that's the Canadian way. We're really inept at running things, and then we get mediocre stuff. And then, well, it's like look at what happened with Air Canada. It's like, sorry, you're not going to be able to bring in this size of carry on, and there's
Yeah.
nothing we can do because we have only three things. It's like it drives me a bit bonkers. Like I got listen, I'm not a big fan of the super free market because I find that it's still going to inevitably turn into like a monopoly. But I do think that Canada tends to pick and choose its winners quite frequently. And I think that it would perhaps not be too bad to give new businesses really big tax breaks to kind of get
Mhm,
them
mhm,
going and then start to challenge a lot of these established brands because yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in this weird oligarchy of four different things that run everything in every facet. It's like Loblaws owns most of the grocery stores, and then there's Safeway, and then there's Save on Foods.
Walmart.
That's Western Canadian. And then yeah, Walmart is kind of a department thing, kind of has everything, and that's really that's it. Like it's impossible. I highly doubt in this timeline you could establish a new supermarket chain now. Like it versus back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, you would see IGAs, you would see these different independent grocers pop up. But they've established these things so much that you have essential monopolies, and then they get all these nice little tax breaks. And it's like, look at our airlines. Air Canada and WestJet are the big ones, and then you see these little ones pop up, and then they fall off. Now, I've flown on Porter Air, which I've quite enjoyed, and I hope that they do well. They give you glass, and they give you like actual, they give you good food, which I was they're going towards more of the treating you like a human being, which I appreciated. But yeah, that's kind of like the issue with Canada. We tend to pick and choose our winners, and that's another problem. That drives me crazy. It's like, oh, we have TELUS, Rogers, and Bell are our telecommunications. Good luck trying to be a new one and trying to get foothold in that. The infrastructure, like it's all built. Like I said, I don't think in my lifetime there's probably going to be a significant challenger to groceries, to telecommunications, to any of this. We're kind of stuck in it. But
Yeah,
another sad truth, Sammy, another sad truth.
yeah, you are absolutely right with respect to this. So it seems like they made things like this, like no one should enter. These all made by these politicians, like they were not made these CEO or big corporates, but they fund these politicians, these political parties to make these uh, policies. Oh, where it is running? Okay, okay. Yeah, it is my from old. I don't know like how it has started playing. Yeah, as I was saying, like it means the as you said, like these all policies, like these politicians made like now Bill Rogers and is there anyone third? Tell us.
Tell us. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are the
three of
three. Yeah.
them, and no one can compete. Like Shah sold itself to Rogers because it could not compete against Rogers because uh, they worked on their all number brought them, but they cannot compete. So it means you made like these big telecommunication companies that no one can compete, and also with respect to groceries stores or big chain uh, store, like no one can compete and no one can enter in the business. So these Lobla and this I think right now Metro, Lobla, Metro, Safeway, and Walmart. Is there anyone? No, and no one can enter.
Yeah, in Canada, in Western Canada, we have Save on Foods.
Oh, seven. Yep.
That's kind of its only other. But like, yeah, yeah, and it's yeah. We used to have IGAs, and they're starting to fall apart. Independent grocers, and they're starting to slowly but surely drop off because you
Mm,
can't compete. And now,
yeah.
of course, a couple of them are established in some smaller towns, which are good. But it's inevitable, unfortunately. And yeah, and I think if you're the guy, you have to sit down and as much as I hate picking and choosing winners and losers, you got to give the new businesses incredible tax breaks to
Yes.
get them established. And you've got to like you have to be like you get pretty much, but and once you hit a certain threshold of profit, then you start to bring that in. Like it's got
Mhm.
to be like we're going to look after you. Pretty much everything will be covered until you hit that like $1 million, and then okay, we're going to start to put it on this. But like it's not going to happen. And also it's like we pay so much in Canada for very mediocre service. It's like Rogers, TELUS, all the
Yeah.
telecommunications. It's like our infrastructure is about like 10 years behind everywhere else in the world, and we pay I think what is it like 40 times more than like it's something crazy like the
Yes.
average. It's like everybody's like 12 $15, and then it's like oh $150. It's nuts. It's crazy. Man, that's the
Hmm.
Canadian dream, Sammy, the Canadian dream.
Yeah, this is crazy, and these politicians and bureaucrats never think about this because everything is covered for them.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you get grocery, you get well in Alberta, the the UCP just increased their living allowance by like $500
Wow.
per month because it's expensive. And you're like, "Yeah, isn't that something? Can you do that? for me. I would like an extra $500 a month. That would be very lovely, but that's what happens. And it's nuts. It's like it's this entitlement, and then it's yeah, nobody really is aware of it. Well, you saw it too with uh who was it? Uh the the minister for the federal government when it was talking about the GST.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, "Oh, you can just press a button and it'll get rid of the GST. It's not that hard." And I'm like, these people live in this reality that doesn't exist. It's like, yes, I guess, yes, if we wave a magic wand, everything will be fixed. It's actually life isn't that hard. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it is, and it's insane. But like, yeah, it's this entitlement. It's nuts. It's
Mm-hmm.
so nuts.
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely right with respect to that. Like they are just out of touch because they are living a standard and they never lived in a middle class. Uh, they never experienced as a middle class person. Like when you are struggling, going to work on minimum wage, and then getting like just you're growing. Like you started as a associate, then you uh promoted to a manager, then a store manager, then you would get more money, like in your pocket. But these politicians, they just like living this luxurious life from day one when they were born. Maybe they were from uh well-rich family, like they belong to like Trudeau or Pierre Pouliot would talk about. But when he was 25 years old, he just got elected. At that time, maybe he earned like 100,000, maybe not 100, but maybe 80 to 90,000 back in 2004. And like other politicians, like they just got entered back in 2015 when Trudeau brought in more people just to the liberal. But like they were billionaire, like not billionaire but millionaire. It means they had enough money in their bank accounts. They could spend, like for a campaign you need to spend like 10 to 15, maybe not that but more than that. But particularly from your own pocket you have to spend a small portion of that what you get from donations. So then you can campaign very well, and they did. And that's why the middle class folks can never get in there. Like they never can get in the House of Commons or in the Legislative Assembly, or particularly maybe now it is too hard to get in the City Council.
Yeah, it is. I was just curious what the House of Commons average occupation is. I would imagine it's going to be lawyer, and that's an expensive thing. Yeah, you're right. It's you don't see too many unemployed people being members of parliament, and I think you do see a couple of middle like. It's unfortunate. You will see like middle class people, but then they get kind of caught up in everything,
Yeah,
and then it all falls apart.
yeah,
Um, so business, lawyers, business, labor representatives, so union reps. You have a couple of journalists,
yeah,
engineers. So it's
mm,
like, yeah, you have typically well-educated folks who have nice backgrounds. I know you see it too. You're right. Like people have a nice. It's easier to be a politician when you're looked after as a child and
yeah,
you don't have to worry too much about money. You can sit down and do a lot more social things.
yeah,
And a lot of these people haven't experienced it. When COVID hit, I lost my job.
yeah,
And well, meanwhile, our politicians kept making their $200,000 or whatever. And you're like, that's fun. That's good.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, and also if you take a look on the senators, those will be appointed by prime minister. And who is he appointing? Those who close to him or close to the party, or once they paid to the party a donation. And like judges, come on, you are appointing judges. Those just paid to your party. Now, how the hell you would think they are going be impartial and do justice. Like whenever a scenario comes in, like a COVID cases, if you see, it seems like are being just being punished because they just did not follow the COVID policies, which COVID mandates, what were brought by liberal government. Like just like I think 5,000 Canadian forces member were fined. No, not 5,000, but they were charged like 5,000 to each. Like you have to pay because you violated, and the court fees. Like they brought in a charge, and the judge was appointed by Justin Trudeau's justice minister. If you take a look, so it seems like maybe and so this is what I'm talking about. We don't have independency, even though our justices are being selected or appointed by these corrupt ministers or politicians. Then they work for them. Yeah, they are not holding rule of law. If you were holding the rule of law, then why the hell the Freedom Convoy organizer is still facing the charges? But we saw what happened in the House of Commons in the Parliament recently. People got in where the MPs' offices were there. No charges were filed against them. Like all charges were dropped. Yes, this is a political move. Like but Freedom Convoy organizer is still facing the charges. They use their freedom of speech. So this is not the country where we want to live. This is like just living in Iran or Pakistan, where military one man rule. Like it is not independency. If there would be an independency, so whether if you charge a Freedom Convoy organizer, so whoever did burn the Canadian flag or got in the House of Commons and protesting, like or threatening a politician, so they were charged same way. Or otherwise, you have, if you did not charge them, you drop their charges. First of all, you have to drop the Freedom Convoy organizer charges too. So we don't see such thing, and this is completely ridiculous. Like we need more independency, and as long as we always talk about this one, so until and unless we don't have independent candidates in the House of Commons, so we won't have these changes, and we will be keep going in the same direction as we are right now.
Yeah, I will say that the Freedom Convoy is a little bit different though than a 1 day sit-in, right? Like
Yeah.
as we've talked about that,
Hmm.
being in a spot and honking horns,
Yeah.
folks in Ottawa, it was causing some things. But if this sit-in did go, if there was a sit-in that we're not leaving and they stayed for 2 weeks, that's when we
Hmm.
could be like, okay, that'd be more of a comparable thing. So I just want to just make that clear.
Yeah.
It is a mildly different thing that we're looking at here. But yeah, it is tough to look at independent thought from when things get appointed. Um, you see it with judges. You're going to see it with, well, you see it with the ethics commissioners. You see it with, it's pretty much just a bunch of lapdogs,
Hmm.
sitting down and be, oh, thank you for giving me this job. And when push comes to shove, they're going to sit down and defend their own, versus all that. But
Yeah.
that is unfortunately the truth of it. Appointing your folks, it's very hard for you to say I'm going to disagree with you because you got me this job. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
that's an unfortunate
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. That's why we need more independency. Like, and also, like, let's talk about Trudeau liberal government just ban more firearms. Do you think it would make any impact?
Oh, like it'll make more. No, I don't think the firearm ban's made any impact. I think it's done. You still, it's as somebody who hunts up here, I find that the people that you need to stop are getting the guns in that are not. They're not. People don't go to Barton's hunting and then buy a gun there to rob a bank. People will get their
Mhm.
guns through unscrupulous means, and that's why you need to have sort of a shift in enforcement of that. It's all a lot of just poppycock. It's a lot of just nonsense there that kind of drives me a bit batty. Like as and I know a lot of folks, I know people who sort of shoot for fun. It's not those are not the people, but yet they're the ones that keep getting punished for it. Like it's like great, you banned all these guns. Toronto still is having shootings
Mhm.
regularly. Like
Yeah.
good. But they look scary. That typically is the case too. I think one of the things people don't realize is that like some of
Mhm.
like the scariest guns look like just regular hunting rifles.
Mhm.
But they're the ones that are semi-automatic or like if you have a lever action, you can get off like 10 shots in 5 seconds. Like,
Mhm.
and I think people don't realize that.
Mhm.
But it looks like a nicer gun. It doesn't look like the bad, scary guns that are in the shootings in the United States.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's a lot of symbolic things. So, it
Mhm.
makes people comfortable, but it doesn't fundamentally change anything for
Mhm.
safety.
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely right. And I just need to ask you one more thing. Have you ever heard a legal gun owner killed someone or did a illegal thing, like a criminal activity?
No, I guess no, like kind of you'll see some people like uh there was the that farmer in Saskatchewan that shot someone that was on his property,
Yeah.
and that sort of led into sort of a big thing about that. But like that's you're gonna have that if somebody has like a knife or like oh I threw a brick at somebody that was on my property or I punched someone that was on my property.
Mhm.
That's kind of like the old, but like I can only think of like maybe two on the top of my head of legal
Mhm.
gun owners.
Mhm.
And then they traced the gun back to the person that owned it, and then
Mhm.
that person was the one that did it. That's the only one that I like. It's only like two I can think of. But yeah, no, it's all the people who have the guns are typically getting them from and that's I think the big problem there is that and I say this too when we look at the gun problem in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, because people will sit down and say, well, Chicago's a gun free zone. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, you can drive 20 minutes to Gary, Indiana and buy
Mhm.
a gun there. Like you could just go in and buy a gun and then take it back. Like it's not, it's like if you have a cup of water
Mhm.
and you fill it with salt, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, the water's salty. There's no water left. It's just salt at that point, right? So it's like, no
Yeah.
matter what, oh, yes, we have this gun free zone, this little drop of water.
Yeah.
There's salt all over it. Like, it doesn't, that's kind of the problem with the United States. And Canada, in turn, has an issue with that,
Mhm.
like, because, okay, Canada, let's ban every gun. Let's just
Gun.
ban every hunting rifle. Let's ban everything. The United States is just full of guns. So you're
Mhm.
just going to have, okay, they'll just keep bringing them up. They'll keep
Mhm.
smuggling them in. It's not actually that. Every time I've gone across the border, like I've driven to Idaho. Oh, there's Adam.
Mhm.
There's the man, the myth, the legend. Having driven to um, Idaho, they just sit down there like, do you have any illegal drugs? No. Okay, have a good day.
Mhm.
Like it's not really that hard to you know,
To
get
walk
all
through.
that stuff there. So it's like, yeah, you have a giant border there with like the gun capital of the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, Canada can ban every gun on the planet. It's not going to do anything.
Thing.
And
Yeah.
then there'll still be shootings, and then you'll be shocked. It'll be like, oh, really? That's crazy. But that's unfortunately the way it goes.
Yeah, that's why I want to ask you, like because I did not hear anything like with respect to any gun owner, legally gun owner, then any criminal activity as you suggested, except that Saskatchewan farmer killed someone just who was tree passing. Like it is just crazy. You are just keep punishing a legal gun owner, but you can't do anything. Like we saw like in Toronto or Brampton in Vancouver, they are just shooting, like they have the gun openly. You are not, like they are just firing, like the Sikh community, there was a wedding. So that was, oh, look at Adam. Welcome, Adam.
Oh,
You
let's
have a
give him a
great
thumbs up.
background.
It's haunting. Are you gonna speak, Adam? You're muted.
Good morning.
Good day, good morning.
Good morning. You look so beautiful.
Thank you. You look very nice too, Donovan and Sammy.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm having
Good to
a
see you.
very interesting listen this morning.
Hmm.
You guys have
Oh,
had a good chat so far.
wow. Thank you. I think you are the only one who listens us.
Oh, that's not true, Sammy. I've been pushing the Sammy Parvez show. I've got some friends that are listening. Maybe not
Good.
during the live show, but they
Mm.
they tune in.
Wow, really?
Good.
Hmm.
It is very new to me because whenever I think like maybe no one is watching, maybe someone just click it and see me. Oh, this guy is talking. Move on.
People are watching, Sammy. People are watching.
Thank you everyone if you're watching. Yeah. So it seems like after you are joining us after a month since we changed our this show to afternoon. I think you joined us once, then we did not see you.
Yeah, it's been a very busy time for me lately. Busy with school and work, but almost done for the semester, so I'll be hopefully joining a little bit more for some Christmas and holiday episodes of the Sammy Parvez show.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, and good luck to your semester or exam, whatever is coming up to just completing. And I'm just requesting Donwan to make a tune or a special music for this
I
Christmas for
know.
the Sami Parvez show.
I'll
I don't
try,
know, like when
Sammy.
will
I'm
we have
busy.
it?
I'm so Sammy. It's like it is so busy on my end. I'm pretty much as soon as this show's done, I have to go play my saxophone and
Mm,
more. So just when I get a chance, I mean, and we'll pray. We'll
mm.
pray together.
Yeah.
We'll give it a
Amen.
shot. Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, yep. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I just kind of joined in. I don't want to interrupt you guys.
No, you are good. You are our best buddy. You are the biggest supporter of the Sami Parvez show. Since we started our show, we don't receive the feedback what you put in. You can always check in like on our live chat. We never get any live chats. Like other than you.
Hey,
And
people, yeah, people are silent. The silent majority, Sammy.
mhm,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And let's talk about the House of Commons. Like it seems like a circus show. What's happening? So conservative put out a non-confidence motion against liberal government, uses Singh's words, Jagmeet Singh's word, and then when the motion comes up, so NDP try to use it as a privilege of question or something like that. So they said no, we are going to talk about violence against women or other gender issues, like then on the next day, then conservative MP again use it point of privilege or question of privilege. Then now they are just trying to get rid of it. They are just playing, like this circus, like what happened in the circus. A tiger or whatever, it just run around, or joker just run around, like on the circle. So it seems like the same thing is happening in the House of Commons. At the same moment, Canadians are struggling for to put food on the table, and the Christmas is just 2 weeks away, and these politicians don't give a damn about us. And like the senators heard about this tax relief, we could save how much, do you know?
It's like,
$4.51.
yeah.
Who would take it, like, and you are giving tax relief of $250 checks. Whoever who can make $150,000, like why the hell this checks being sent to bureaucrats, but not to the disabled people and the senior citizen who live, who pay taxes in their entire life, but they are uh, exempted to getting these taxes. It seems like you are shunning down and disrespect them, how work they hard in their entire life to build this country. But when it's come to $250 tax check, it would go to bureaucrats, but not those people. This is crazy, and particularly disabled people. Like they are struggling with their life. Like, but you are exempting them from this check, but you are paying. You need to lower the threshold. 150 is too much. Make it 40 or 50 who are working on the minimum wages. Like those people don't need it, who make like over 100,000. It seems like it is crazy. And this is what, and they are just keep trying to go here and there, like just throwing the ball to you and me, like playing tennis or hockey or whatever you want to, like this is not the way. And this is absorbing, and this is, I think, crazy and disgusting. I don't have any words to express this thing. And these politicians are not very serious about Canadians but themselves, because they need, and they are talking about their own pension. But recently, I think the election committee changed removed that portion to changing the election date for the sake of those 28 liberal and NDP MPs to be eligible for their lifetime golden pension.
Well, I was watching that committee meeting, and well, I've been watching it, and Michael Cooper did a filibuster. When we talk about like stupid things, there's a lot of it where you're like, oh, so Michael Cooper, the MP for St. Albert, he's an Albertan MP.
Hmm.
Uh, he
Yeah,
spent
he's in Alberta, I
he
think.
spent 2 hours talking. Like he filibustered the committee meeting, and he talked for 2 hours. Which then was just a big waste of everyone's time. But like it's sort of the part of the political play. I think those $250 checks should go from like people who made nothing to like 40,000, and like or like 50,000, and then nothing above that. Like at
Yes.
50, and maybe it's like 250, and then from 50 to 100, they get like $150 check, and then everybody else is fine because I think that's kind of silly. But
Hmm.
yes, it's there's a lot of silliness going on. It's very silly. I think that was a smart move by Pierre though, Polyev, to use Singh's words. And I think that's what he needs to kind of really rail that, because that's going to really hurt the NDP, and the Liberals are not very big fans of, or not doing well. So then once you can kind of kneecap both of them, and that'll keep going up, right? Like I think the Liberals, it's sad. Everything's sad with their polling numbers. And I think, yeah, trying all of the attempts to get people to vote for them, of like, here, we'll give you $250. Here, we're going to give you no GST on most things, or things that already don't have GST. It's like, well, groceries don't have GST. Now you're just making prepared sandwiches won't have it too, which I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
and no taxes on alcohol, which is definitely what people need, is a good deal
booze.
on booze. Yeah, these people, these Canadians need more liquor.
I just hit 365 days of sobriety, so
Oh,
that's pretty good.
congrats.
It's though it's a leap year, so it's not a real year yet. So I got kind of screwed on that, but yeah, alcohol is not particularly a good thing, and I think that's the opiate of the masses, unfortunately. Um, that's the way it goes. And I think, yeah, I think it's just a ploy. It's just try to get people to vote. Get drunk this holiday. Look at how great we are. If you drink enough, we'll look good. It's sort of like the drunk goggle effect. Suddenly you're like, oh yeah, Justin Trudeau was pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, if you start drinking around at the Christmas table, you're gonna start talking politics. The
Exactly.
opinions start flowing.
This is good. These are good things.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is crazy. Like they are also attacking each other for calling them they're you are drunk. The other MP say no, you are drunk. Like how they grilled Michael, what the other Michael? Ontario Michael.
Yeah. Yes, I
Maybe
recall.
Elizabeth May will have herself a nice holiday season with that
Mhm.
liquor tax.
We need our politicians to get back to John A. MacDonald levels of drunkenness, where they
Yeah.
would just
Mhm.
throw up in the House of Commons, and it was just a just debauchery, drunkery. Then I'd actually find it acceptable. Our parliament right now, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Everybody's wasted, but unfortunately, that's not the case. The good old John A. MacDonald throwing up and saying my opponent's argument was so terrible that it made me want to lurch. You're like, that's so good. So good. Yeah, we need that again. We need to bring that
Mhm.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you guys watched? I don't know if I've talked about it yet on the Sami Parvez show, but it is on YouTube. It's a series came out in the 70s called The National Dream. It's about the construction of the CP Railroad. Oh,
No.
it's
Oh,
fantastic. I think it's 9 parts, and each one's about an hour or so, but it really looks into depth into John A. and some of his drinking and trains and whatnot. It's fun. I definitely recommend it.
okay, sure. I will watch it.
Pierre Burton. Oh, of course. Yes. I'm down.
It's awesome. It's really well produced. It's a good show. It's like Pierre wants to defund the CBC, which we've talked about, like that's kind of losing traction.
Mhm.
But we went back a little bit more into creating like stories about Canadians, reinforcing the Canadian identity. I feel like people would be if maybe you made it a little more propaganda-ish. People might watch the CBC a little bit more. Be like, hey, Canada is pretty neat.
I find CBC goes in waves of like good. Like you'll sort of see moments of like, oh yeah, this is like comedy wise, in particular, they'll sort of hit these waves of like Kids in the Hall, SCTV, sort of like that late 70s and like late 70s, late 80s. And then they have the dearth of just nothing, and then they usually start to cut things down, and then through that they have to have some semblance of necessity. But it seems like, yeah, there's like every decade, the CBC has like a resurgence of like, oh, we can actually make good things. I might not be the biggest fan of Schitt's Creek, but I watched. I was like, this is fine. Like it's a good produced, well produced thing that CBC had. Um, Kenny versus Spenny in the 2000s. They took a gamble on that, and I think that's kind of where CBC needs to start getting back to its roots of Canadiana and of taking these weird risks of, you know, Canada is a naturally funny country. We have I think pound for pound, Canada has the best comedians, and I think that in those waves, I think in the next 3 years we're gonna have another big hit from CBC, and I think it's gonna come through those cuts. I don't think Pierre's gonna completely kill the CBC. I think he's going to cut tremendously and say this is the amount of savings we're getting, but it's through those, the bare bones that you start to come up with neat ideas. So I think that would be good.
I miss Rick Mercer. I learned so much about Canada and like the Canadian people just through watching his little shorts on YouTube. Um, and like real people, he humanized politicians in a lot of ways. Like he got them doing absurd things. Uh, you don't see that anymore. You don't see politicians except as robots.
Mhm.
He,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Stephen
I know.
Harper.
Like he went to the what is it called where the prime minister lives?
I was about to say
Sussex.
Downing Street, but it's Sussex.
Sussex. Yeah, he went to Sussex and he played floor hockey with Harper and Harper's kids. And it's just like these little weird things. I think he went bungee jumping maybe with well, maybe bungee jumping was with Rick Hansen. But just finding these little activities, keeping people engaged not through like chatter and banter at the House of Commons, but just through like what they are as people.
Mhm.
I will say that, yeah, that since Rick Mercer stopped being on the air, the amount of like vitriol and dehumanizing of like opponents is like nothing, like just sort of caricaturing like their opponents as everything possibly evil has increased dramatically. Like I'm no fan of Stephen Harper in the slightest, but I will say watching him interact with Rick Mercer was always a good time.
Or going for Harvey's Hamburgers with Jean Chrétien.
Yes.
Like that's what I would watch a talk show where they just eat hamburgers and talk about nothing. Oh, you all right, Donovan?
I just have a cold.
It's the season of the witch. Yeah, how was that? Sammy, I heard you got a job.
Yep.
Good for you. I'm so happy
Thank
for you,
you.
man.
Thank you very
Congrats.
much. Yeah, thank you very much.
Is it fun? Do you like it?
Oh, it is a heavy labor job.
Hmm?
It is no, it is not a fun, heavy labor job.
Well, hey, it's work, right? And I mean, if
Yeah,
you have some good coworkers, do you have some good coworkers that you've
yeah,
gotten along?
co-workers are nice. But
That's good. That makes it so much better, right? You'll have a good sense of community and stuff. And
yeah,
you can publicize the Sammy Parvez show.
yeah, I told someone to watch it. I don't know,
Yes.
like he said he did not subscribe it yet, but I informed him that we will be live today. I don't know, like if he watch it. No, I don't know. Like maybe I need to ask him tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good place to get people started,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I will. I will try.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
But
sorry.
yeah, no, I'd like to see some form of, and Rick Mercer was such a like a unique personality. He was like very knowledgeable, but sort of played the not the ignorance card, but just, like the comedian, he played the act.
Hmm.
And right now there is so much comedy, but it's all directed based off of what's going on in the house
Hmm.
and very little based off of like these people as humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they
And
are humans, they may be snake people
mhm,
or reptilian.
yeah.
Hmm.
And let me bring up another politics thing. Two liberal MPs clashes with each other. Like like one is in Hindu, the other one is Sikh. Uh, Chandra Arya is representing riding of Nepian, and the other guy is what is his name?
Was this the
Sukh
Sikh?
Daliwal.
Was this the please recognize this massacre? Yes,
Yeah.
and then everybody's like really uncomfortable, and
Hmm.
you're starting to see the fractures form, the Khalistani, and yeah, that's kind of a whole fascinating thing there. Sammy, take it away. Explain to the folks at home what's going on with this this wacky legislation.
Yeah, so it is all about like there was a genocide, like India cracked down Sikhs when they were just terrorizing, and they need an independent state like Punjab, which is the most populous region for the Sikh. Like what Sikh, like Punjabi and particularly Sikh who wears turban. So they mostly known, like you can identify them who they are, and they need an independent state. And at that time India cracked down, like just wanted to sum it up, like it means they were keep targeting other, particularly Hindus, because in India mostly either Hindu or Sikh. So Sikh are in Punjab, and the Hindu would be all over India. So they the majority, so the government always is Hindu, and they also assassinated two Indian prime minister. And I think like back then in 1984 they assassinate, like they just crack down on these Sikh group. So many Sikh were killed, but now these Hindu like blame a Sikh because they also killed many Hindus at their time. And you remember, you don't remember, but you know, like about back in 82 or 84, Air India bombing, which was also done by this Sikh terrorist group, which is called Khalistani group. And so it means they were behind of this attack, this terrorist group. And this Sukh Daliwal is from Sikh community, so he's asking to be recognized the genocide of Sikh, which was done by India. It has nothing to do with Canadian and the House of Commons. But why you are bringing in these you were what do you call it, religious or ethnic issues, you know, in Canada, keep it there. In India, if you are very much interested, so you can go back to India and fight these one, you know, like you can at least ask, you know, like what's going on. You can educate people from to people, but you should not just rise up in the House of Common and call it out, you know, like. So we need to recognize, we don't have to recognize, this has nothing to do with India. And the other guy said no. And on the next day, he rise up, this Chandra. So he said he was threatened by this Sukh Daliwal, and there was another MP. I don't know like who that was. Maybe another Sikh MP. You know, like in the liberal caucus. It seems like they're fighting each other, and they always have these clashes between Hindu and Sikh. So it has been happening, and they are now bringing all their issues here in Canada, as we are seeing in Vancouver, particularly in Brampton. Like these Khalistani groups are protesting, you know, and also many are in Alberta too. But but this is nothing to do. It seems like we are just importing like criminals, you know, like just this is what a liberal is doing, you know, like many people got in Canada because of like liberal government uh, soft on crimes and uh, relax the rules for international students and visitors back in 2018. So many people just jumped in, and we have now maybe millions of, you know, like there are, I think, 4 millions are temporary residents. Maybe could be like 2 million these folks. Who knows?
Well, I know that, like, well, this is when we started talking about, Canada being sort of a vassal of the United States. This is also one of the big problems too, is how much influence, foreign influence in particular, Canada has,
Yeah.
and we're seeing it too. It's not necessarily the fact that we're getting a lot of migrants or criminals. It's not necessarily that, but it's the fact that we're so entwined with all these other countries that starts to make an influence. We're seeing right now with the Conservative parties kind of dealing with it, where Patrick Brown,
Mm-hmm.
who was running
Yep.
to be leader of
Conservative.
the Conservatives, sort of had shifted his entire campaign because of Indian influence
Yeah.
from agents, right? And like completely derailed his campaign. And so we're in this like really strange thing where even Patrick Brown said on the stand that his volunteers were being
Or
harassed, right?
yep.
Like so this becomes like a really into this is what we're talking about when we're sort of sitting down and saying what's Canadian identity, and we've kind of lost, I think, a lot of it. We've lost it through the United States through this free trade. We've lost it through sort of all these different influences from government, and we see it too with the liberals have it with China said Beijing said we approve of these 58 candidates or whatever, and that's a whole bag of worms there that I don't want to even get into. And I think that that's where a lot of it's being lost. And I think it's all these influences from all the sides. Everybody's getting influenced. We're getting pushed. It's like when the election was happening in the United States, it's like China's rooting for their guy, Russia's rooting for their guy, India's rooting for their guy. Like and that's kind of where we're at with it. It's and then what influence can you have? And I think Canada's been a little bit dilly-dallied, cutting these deals, and now we're having this. I said that the chickens have come to roost, Sammy. Things have been, and it's kind of hitting all right around the same time. The last like year, liberals with China, We're seeing it with the conservatives with India, and we're seeing these sort of things popping up where that in the House of Commons and all the trade with the United States. It's all these moments of like, what is a Canadian identity at this point? It's starting to get muddled, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And are our elected officials standing for us, or are they standing for another country? And that
Hmm.
becomes a whole thing there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is crazy. Like they are just doing. And according to Sam Cooper, 41 candidates backed by PRC. A Chinese Communist Party in 2019. Can you believe it? 41 candidates are running
Oh,
for the House of Commons
I can believe
and
it, Sammy.
being backed by Chinese communist regime. So what the hell is happening here? It seems like they are not going to work for Canada and Canadian. That's why we keep we keep airing this foreign interference, and this is what. And Patrick Brown, like campaign suddenly crushed down. Like even though a conservative MP, I think Rachel,
Michelle
uh,
Rempel Garner.
yeah, Apple Garner. Yeah, she was forced to drop off, being the uh, campaign manager, or campaign manager, that is called. No,
Yeah, I think she was like the manager. She
yeah,
was sort of organizing everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So something like that of Patrick Brown's campaign. So she has stepped down, but she said no, nothing to do with India. Yeah, it has to do with India. Like Indian consulate member called her, or maybe consulate met with her, like forced her to step down. Otherwise, you would face the consequences. What you can face, it means from the Indian folks who are living in Canada, they are not going to vote for you. Like particularly it happened with Chinese regime threatened all its citizens who are living in Canada. Don't vote for the conservative. You have to vote for liberals or whoever they want to.
Yeah.
These, yep.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's one of those things where if we're going to be a free country, if Patrick Brown wants to run on a thing saying that I want to recognize a Sikh nation, then he should be able to do that. Like it's like, but like the fact is that as soon as he said that, all of a sudden India's coming in being like, you can't say that. All of his engagements were getting canceled, all of his deals, like all these things that he was talking to, and like you should be able to if you want to sit down and recognize that and you want to say I think that this is an important conversation, you want to make that a part of your thing, you should be able to say that fully and freely without any problem. But unfortunately, that is not the case in Canada. Everybody's too intertwined, and that's where a lot of it is. I think they got to start looking towards a little bit more independence as a country, but that's not going to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, how do you do that without like nationalist movements? And with nationalism, you usually get some pretty big wing nuts, right? Not always. I consider myself like a nationalist, not like a crazy one, but I like Canada a lot. And yeah, just promoting like that national identity and being pro immigration. It's very difficult right now. Even like in my classes, the kids I'm teaching right now, a lot of them like with the talk with Trump wanting to take over or Canada. The kids they don't care, and they don't care much about Canada. So I don't know if they got to start singing "Oh Canada" more, or if maybe they got to start eating some more maple syrup. But it's it's a different world even from like 10 years ago. These kids do not associate themselves as Canadians or even Albertans. And I think a lot of that has to do with just having cell phones too. They're a part of like the global sphere. They're like in it. They were born into it. And so what the hell is the point of having borders or even caring about where you're from when literally everything you see is from every corner of the world? And we need to find a way to brainwash these children, get them
Yes.
back into the Canadian spirit.
Now we're
Mhm.
talking.
Yeah. And also, there was a report which was like there was a memo from Justice Department. They would uh, like sue or take them to the court for reporting on some government matter, like secretive matter if they air it from sources. Can you believe it? So RF Wizari, I don't like what is his last name, but he said those were happened in the past, but you cannot do it. I was reading that report from Rebel News. Can you believe it? It was reported by Black Locks reporter, but Black Road reporter don't like give you the all details until you don't subscribe that newspaper. That is $313 or 14. That is nothing, but there are lots of resources you can find if anyone subscribe it. So I did not subscribe it, but I read it from Rebel News.
Get the news where you can. Yeah, no, it's yeah, not a good time. Not good. Nothing's good. Mm, It's freezing rain now. It's starting to rain up here. That'll be fun. Do you have freezing rain? How often do you get freezing rain, Sammy, in Kitchener Waterloo?
Freezing rain.
Yeah.
So far, we don't have any freezing rain. Now it is just snow. Like I think we had. I don't think we had freezing rain this time.
It's, it's interesting. Is that common? Is freezing rain common over there?
You'd think because it's so humid,
But
right?
it doesn't get below zero too much. And I
Yeah.
think that's where, like, because the freezing rain happens because it's like the ground is super cold and then it warms up enough, but the ground remains cold. And I think that's more of an Alberta thing because
Hmm.
we
Mhm.
typically our weather gets stupid. Well, as I said at the top of the show that when we did our show on Sunday, it was minus 27 up here, and then Monday it was plus 6. It's like, yeah, that's normal. It's like within 12 hours, the weather just changed completely. So yeah, that's the way it goes.
Do you get Chinooks up there, Donovan?
We do. Well, they're not as like, oh, I had some Calgarian gatekeep Chinooks when I said we get them, and then he's just like, no, you don't. And I'm like, okay, we do have them. I can see the mountains. They're far away, but yes, we get
Yeah.
the wind from the west gets really, 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 really powerful. And then it gets up to like plus 6. And that's what happened actually on Monday. All of a sudden, those big winds came in. And you can see the Chinook Arch too, which is really cool.
That's
Uh,
neat. Yeah.
you can kind of see it from my house where the whole west suddenly looks like that little doop where the mountain is because all the pressure's pushing away and then that warm air shoots in. But yes, we do get them. I don't care. Sorry, Calgary. We other places get Chinooks too. We're not right next to the mountain, so it's not as intense. But yes, we get them. So screw off, jerks.
Yeah, so I found Trudeau government says reporting on federal secrets is a crime memo. An internal Department of Justice memo dismisses acts of journalism as a crime when it concerns contentious matters on foreign interference.
That's
An
not good.
internal Department of Justice memo is earned swift pushback for suggesting journalists could be charged for reporting on the government. The document was originally prepared for internal Department of Justice policy discussion, said Ian McLeod, a justice spokesperson. The August 12th memo outlined the need to censor journalists who publish government secrets without permission. Black Locks learned. Can you believe it? Is it a free world? Is it a free country?
That sometimes, yeah, that's never. Oh, it's like it's be better with your secrets. Like you're punishing the people for winning the game, jerks.
Yeah.
Adam and I are both for journalisty individuals, and that's where the money is. That's where, and yeah, sorry that you suck at keeping secrets, and now you're just like it's like that kid you're playing video games with that suddenly just turns the console off, and you're like, sorry, you suck, but
Mhm.
it's the way it goes.
Yeah,
Well,
so
pouting.
pardon me.
Pouting.
Yeah. Okay.
I look
Uh,
I look like the hunter from the end of Jumanji.
oh, You know what I realized? Did you know I had never realized this until I watched Jumanji like not that long ago. But Alan, who is like Robin Williams,
Hmm.
his dad
Is
is
the hunt?
the hunter.
Yeah, that's
I
you never.
Whoa, whoa.
That's him coming. Yeah, that's the allegory.
Yeah,
You didn't
that
realize that? Yeah, I guess you were when you're
I was a
little.
child. It was just he was the
He
scary
has a
hunter.
beard. He has a beard, and then you're
Yeah,
like, it's a
and like the
completely different
teeth.
person. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same. Who's that actor? He's in so many things. Uh,
All I
that
know is a pair of shoes. I'd buy a pair if I could.
Jonathan Hyde is the actor.
It's a very
Jonathan
generic name.
Jonathan Hyde. I thought he was something. Did a little bit more. Oh yes, he was in Titanic. Of
Ah.
course, he played the jerk. This is made famous by Steve Martin. Now, yeah, no, that's interesting. Yes, yes, indeed, it is the same guy, Adam. It is the same guy.
That caught me off guard. What's next? Mrs. Doubtfire is Robin Williams?
No, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. I don't believe that for an instant.
Have you ever seen Mrs. Doubtfire, Sammy?
No.
No? Oh, highly recommend it. Great, great little film.
We should do a watch party live.
We should do like a Robin Williams dedicated, like we could watch Flubber a little bit, maybe
And
some RV.
have an episode on Flubber.
Yeah, I
Sammy
would
Sammy
totally be game
watches
for that.
Sammy watches Robin Williams movies.
Yeah.
We watch like the whole we watch every episode of Mork and Mindy and we rank them.
We could talk about we could do Patch Adams related to healthcare.
It's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah, especially in Canada right now when you got to wait however many months for an actual appointment.
Well, my wife's getting she's had been having migraines and they're like, we'll get her a CT scan. We'll call. And I was like pleasantly surprised that the earliest one is mid-March, which I was like, wow,
Wow.
that's pretty good. And I'm like, that's insane that I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy that is an acceptable amount of time up here. Oh, it's like, so you have knee injuries and that got pushed for like a year and a half and but doesn't
Yeah,
cost
people
you
like
anything.
I had family that were debating. I think my uncle went down to Mexico for a hip operation and it was like cheap enough. It was worth his time to pay a little bit of money and suffer for less time than it was wait around here in pain and agony and do
Mm.
nothing for another few months.
Well, like a lot of those surgeries, they do like, well, I know in some places in like India, they'll do it's like wrist surgery and they do like 150. It's just bam, 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 back to back to back to back to back to back to back, and the guy just does a surgery, does like carpal tunnel surgeries or anything like that. It's like it's not really that crazy, and that the fact that you can just go to Mexico and it's like a high. It's not like a black market surgeon. It's a highly rated like top tier surgeon that's like, yeah, well, let's get that done. It doesn't cost that much when you really think about it. Like compared to, yeah, suffering for 2.5 years and then you get it and then it's like, okay, now it's fine, I guess, but is that worth it? Not really ever. Yeah, that's a whole thing. We'll have to have a whole thing on that, Sammy. We'll talk all about Canada healthcare and our experiences with it.
Yeah, we may need to talk next week on healthcare system in Canada, despite being free. But you have to wait. Like one day we went to in walk in like the Saint Mary Hospital. I don't know like what was there. We waited for 2 hours. There was nothing. Then we walked out, and one day there was another walk-in clinic in the downtown. So we waited 1 hour. Then I asked like someone told me she's waiting since 10 o'clock, and it was around 1:30. Just walk in. Can you believe it?
I think oh I can. I think what's the longest you've waited, Adam, for I think the longest I've waited for emergency was I think 7.5 hours.
Wow.
My
Um I think
my
that's my record.
grandpa 2 Augusts ago, my grandpa had been told by his family doctor and his he had been to the ER and they had been sending him for physio. And so I finally said, okay, enough is enough. And we took him to the emergency room at the University of Alberta Hospital. And we got there about 10. He didn't get in until 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening.
Wow.
Uh, and he was diagnosed with like brain cancer and lung cancer. And it was all just kind of, I mean, he would have had it anyways, but he was being dismissed by so many doctors. And so it finally took us going to like a real hospital. And even then, like it took forever. It was a huge wait, but at least he got diagnosed. So you have to pick and choose where you go as well now, which is crazy to think about because the level of care is like the standard of care is not the same everywhere, especially when you're old. They are very dismissive of old people. Oh yeah, you're just getting old. It's arthritis. And yeah.
20 tumors. It's like there's like 80 tumors in your
Yeah, no, it was
wrist, and you're
awful.
like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
yeah. I think 7.5, and it was also the U of A. Yeah, and that's just like a common thing. I think everybody has a horror story of waiting outside of
Wow.
Sammy.
So
Sammy
good.
just gets the hell out of there. Sammy's like, screw this. This is
Yeah, I
nonsense,
said.
which is
I'll
Yeah.
fix myself.
I'll fix
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Easy.
I'm not going to wait that much long, like I need to come here, maybe do some live show rather than waiting in the hospital.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Yeah. I'm
Actually,
now
a
in.
live show from the hospital waiting room would be very interesting. Maybe you could interview a few people if like they're comfortable with it. You know, not, hey, why are you here? But hey, what do you think of the healthcare system? I don't know if there are journalistic like integrity rules in Canada about interviewing people in a hospital waiting room.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
I'm just Alberta has we actually have our wait times, the emergency wait times, so you can actually see how long it would be. In Edmonton, the quickest wait is just under 3 hours. That would be in Devon or Leduc. Leduc. So if you have an issue, you'd best go to Leduc. Devon is the longest at 6 hours.
Wow.
Devon
Uh,
always has long waiting times, it seems.
let's see Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie, 45 minutes. But also don't trust these because it's said many times the wait time is going to be 45. It's like, oh, great. The wait time in Grand Prairie is 15 minutes, and then it took like an hour and a half. So we can only assume that that wait time is also going to be because all it takes too is like one accident, and then the emergency wait time is screwed. So like you're in Devon and you're waiting. It's almost 6 hours, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in with like a nail gun to the head, and then just like, okay, well, that person takes priority, and then you just wait another 3 or 4 hours. Let's see Calgary. Any crazy ones there? Nothing too crazy. About 3 hours is the average in Calgary. Fort McMurray's an hour and a half. Yeah, Edmonton's kind of good. Oh, Medicine Hat's 3 hours. Ah, Red Deer's 5 hours. Now we're talking. The Canadian healthcare system at its finest.
But yeah, go to the ER. Honestly, wait 5 hours if you must, but go to the ER because you will probably get things sorted out. Your family doctor is not going to look out for you, more or less. They can send you for tests, but those tests are going to take, like Donovan said, until March to get done.
Yeah. And yeah, all just up here too. Well, like I've my family doctor's been doing a pretty good job, and like so my said, my wife's been having these really intense migraines, and he's been taking it seriously and being like, yeah, well, but yeah, it's the earliest you're gonna get a CAT scan. And you hopefully in 3 months we don't find out that there's like 90 tumors in the brain that just those 3 months could have been critical. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just a small little issue. But Yeah, that's the Canadian healthcare system. It's kind of
So is it
broken.
so is it because we are short of nurses or doctor, or is it because we don't have enough these hospitals or whatever you call it?
Sammy, it's a lot of factors. It's a lot of an aging population is not helping, and it's a lot of short-sightedness from our government. I've said it before, but the government tends to kick the can down the road until the road stops existing, and I think we're starting to see that turn its head, similar to the Jasper fires. It was a failure on the federal, the provincial, and the municipal about controlling these trees, and we're having that we're here, we should have invested in the infrastructure needed. We should have invested in doctors. The College of Physicians, there should be a different regulation for. Uh, I have doctor friend or like we have family friends that are from South Africa, that are doctors in our community. But it's like they have to do all these tests again, and they're like, I've done this. So like sort of this idea of streamlining, of being like, hey, take this test. If you pass this test, you only have to do a year of certification versus you have to essentially do medical school again. I remember when Edmonton Uber had started, and it was cheaper to take Uber than it was to actually drive. So I
Hmm.
just took Uber everywhere. And my favorite Uber driver was like a podiatrist, who from India, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I should be all ready to go in about 10 years to start my and you're like, "That's nuts." Because he's like, "I don't have like the money right now." And then he's explaining these things and I'm like, if that guy and he's articulate and I'm like, "Okay, if he takes like why not have that idea of like take this almost like an SAT or an MCAT
Hmm.
kind of thing where you're like take this, and if you do well enough with it, we understand that you have some knowledge, take a year to certify and then
Yep.
like a year of sort of or 6 months of
Practice.
like a practicum, yeah, and then it's like good, but it's been this is said, everyone's kicked the can and now we have a population, the boomers are hitting that age where all this stuff is happening, and
Hmm.
nobody had any, and then we're all shocked, we're like, oh wow, the house is falling apart, as if you just ignored the cracks that have been
Yep.
just tearing. That's not a big deal, it'll be fine, we'll get to that eventually, and that's where we're at, and that's really is, it's a combination too of infrastructure, it's a combination of just not planning, and now we only have in Alberta like three CT scan. Like it's just stuff of like why not have built a little bit more there? But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a combo.
you won't face opposition. Normally, like the people I talk to, you will not face opposition if you say, we're building a hospital or
Yep.
we're investing in this medical technology that Alberta does not yet have, and we're putting it in this hospital so that people can use it. You won't face a lot of opposition, but I guess that money is better spent elsewhere
Hmm.
on
Yeah, but
interfering.
hmm but we spent millions of dollars during COVID, like for making those machines. I don't know, like what they bought, those masks and other thing which went useless. They were not used, and Randy Bosno company received millions of dollars. Can you believe a US counselor got caught for or thefting or exploiting? Like hiring a family friend, then she gave like back 7,000, and she was charged, and FBI arrived at her doorstep. Like to searching the house and arresting her. But here in Canada, people are taking millions of dollars, but nothing is happening. Like the Randy Bosno is still sitting MP. If this thing happen in US or anywhere else, so the person would not be still receiving taxpayers' money. So it seems like we are not the rule of law country. Can you believe it?
I can. I can believe it. Yeah, it is, that is unfortunate. It is all then, but even then in the States, they still find ways of sneaking about. Like I highly doubt there's actually going to be much from that. That yes, it was like $7,000 of
Yeah.
laundering
Mhm.
But I think that they'll still get a little slap on the wrist. I think it's a lot of performative stuff. I'll have to monitor what happens with that. But yeah,
Yeah, but last, so Joe Biden pardoned his son,
Hunter.
Hunter Biden. But like what is my take? Joe Biden did very well. Like I thought Joe Biden said he's not going to pardon him because he thought might be Kamala Harris would win. But then when Kamala Harris lost, so he thought now it is the only way just to pardon his son rather than being a political move. And but if let's be human, like human to human. So Biden, so they always pushed Biden around, like back in 2015 when he wanted to run. Then now he was forced to step down. So I think Biden deserve to use these is a command to do whatever he wants to in his just last year, though just last month in the office, and also maybe few years he left to live on.
Yeah, I think it said it's only human, and they always do this, and it's like I always hate whataboutism, but like Trump did the exact same thing to Kushner's dad, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't particularly think I think it's pretty much a non-issue, and then everyone's shocked. He said he wasn't gonna do it, and it's like, okay, politicians lie. Like, are we just forgetting that politicians sometimes say things that they're not gonna mean?
Mhm.
Like, that's yeah. I think it's a pretty much not, and I think it's already the anger has now subsided. I think because it was really initially that probably 48 hours everybody was very mad and vitriolic and screaming and being like how dare you, and now it's like okay, whatever, it is what it is. But the thing that I think is interesting though is how the rumblings that Biden might future pardon um Fauci, um, Liz Cheney, like a lot of the people that Trump's been going after and railing against in his thing, that because as a president you can sit down and say I pardon these individuals for any crime that was committed during my presidency,
Mhm.
which he can do. So then it's like if there's an they can't investigate because well they can't, there's nothing, so he could feasibly do that, which I think would be interesting and would also drive the conspiracy theory folks a little batty, which I think is fun. I also like trolling, so I think Biden likes to troll a little bit, so I think I could see Biden doing it and then just having like a little grin on his face as he does it. But yeah, that'll be neat if he does that. If he future pardons like Cheney and Fauci for any potential crimes that were committed during his presidency, which he can do as president of the United States, which is crazy. I didn't realize that was a thing until I started reading about it.
Mhm. So then, if once president pardon them, then they won't be charged again on just on the same case, right?
For anything, he could sit down and say that you are pardoned for any crime that was committed from 2017 to 2021. So then there's nothing they could do. They would be like, okay, or from sorry, not 2020 to 2025, and then be like, okay, yeah, there's nothing that you can do.
So if something happened 2015, so it could be charged for that
So yeah,
one.
he could be charged for that, yes, but yeah, it's not like you can sit down and be like, you're free to commit any crime whenever you want. But you could sit down and say, hey, if there's anybody who thinks that there was a crime that was there, he could, as president, say, we're not gonna chase this.
Can you pardon yourself?
I,
Like
I think I
I
think
know
Trump. Yeah.
Ford pardoned Nixon,
uh,
but I wonder if Nixon could have been like, if he wanted to, if he could have been like, yeah, I'm just leaving now, and I pardon myself, pardon me, and then just got up and walked out.
Yes, apparently they can. I'm reading this in a law journal.
So that just goes to show what a man of integrity Richard Nixon really was. That he didn't even pardon himself.
Yeah,
He waited for Jerry to do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we need the same system in Canada. We don't need
I want to pardon everybody.
it.
It's like that Eddie Murphy song, Pardon all the time, pardon all the time, pardon all the time.
I was watching Trading Places last night. We should watch Trading Places. That's a
I,
good economy movie.
it is.
And it's
What is
Christmas.
it called?
Trading Places. You should
Trading
watch that,
Places.
Sammy. Dan Aykroyd, he's Canadian. And like a very intelligent
1983.
man. Hmm?
1983 movie.
Yeah.
The 80s. Yeah.
Or we could watch Spies Like Us. That's domestic affairs
Mhm.
and international affairs. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
What is the other one?
Spies Like Us. That's sort of a Cold War dystopian, like Doctor Strangelove meets, I don't want to say
I will look
Ghostbusters.
and try
Doctor
to watch it.
Strangelove meets hmm. I don't even know what to compare
I
Spies
don't
Like.
know. Spies Like Us is it's like it's like you're right. It's a bit strange lovey with like Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Uh
Yes.
I would say that would be a more apropos comparison, but that's also a pretty slick movie.
I love that movie.
But anyways, I might have to call it here for
Yeah.
me,
I
just
got
because
more marking to do here today. So it was great seeing you guys.
it's great seeing
Good
you,
to
my
see you too.
friend.
Yeah,
My
and
friend.
congrats on the job, Sammy. I'm so happy for you. That's
Thank you. Thank you very
game
much.
changing.
Yeah, we are just hitting now close to 1,000.
Yes. Soon, soon.
Yeah,
Yes.
usually, like most of the like shorts I give, like those would increase the number of the subscribers, particularly about Pierre Pulier, Trump. People watch loves those one, like rather than watching these big videos.
That's
People
okay
like the
though.
people like the instant like gratification, the
Yeah.
short, like that's the world we live in now, is
Hmm.
people have the attention span of a goldfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm not saying your fans do.
Yeah.
Your fans have the attention span of a Bigfoot.
Hmm.
They're that good at sort of hiding out in the corners and avoiding, but they're there
Hmm.
and they see all. They just
Thank you.
don't participate as often.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
We could watch
everybody.
Harry and the Hendersons
Ah, another classic. An Academy Award winning
for
classic.
the makeup.
Yeah. One of
Yeah.
the which I think is always great. I always say those are my favorites. Academy Award winning Harry and the Hendersons. But anyways, make sure you like and subscribe so you can hear us chat more. We'll talk about medical stuff next week, maybe, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the Ides of December. Not a lot of political stuff happening, but we can always talk about healthcare.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Sammy is great. Let
Thank
the rockets fly.
you. Okay. Thank you.
See you
Thank you,
guys.
Don.
See you,
Thanks for
Adam.
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you for joining us.
See you later.
Yeah, see you. See you. Thank you very, very much, Don Juan Ekstrom and Adam Simmet, to joining me from beautiful Alberta. And thank you, whoever watch us. And please do subscribe and share our YouTube channel. And we will be live next week, Saturday.
You bet.
Hey, yep.
Okay, stay warm.
Yeah. Stay warm and be a Santa to help your neighbors to clean the sidewalks from terrible snow. And Merry
Exactly.
Christmas and Happy December, whatever
Happy
you
Happy
would call it.
December.
December. Happy December. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Bye bye.